Let me invite you, please, this morning to open your Old Testaments to the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 53. This is a passage that is often read in preparation for partaking of the memorial. You've probably done so many times throughout your life, and with good reason. Isaiah was a special writer concerning Jesus in that he lived 700 years before Christ. And so everything that he wrote about the suffering Savior and all that he would go through and the details throughout the letter of Isaiah are amazing in that they're prophecy that would take that many years to fulfill. And yet there are beautiful, specific things about what Jesus was willing to do. And so as we begin, we start in a place that we know pretty well, and that is in Isaiah 53 and in verse 5. The text says in Isaiah 53 and 5, "He was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The chastening for our well-being fell upon him, and by his scourging, we are healed." I know that's not new information for you, and in fact, this is not the only passage throughout this letter that talks about that, but this entire chapter is about what the Father was willing to put the Son through, what it meant to go all in and pay the complete price in order to purify people. So what I want to do is read a little bit more of that context with you. Let's read verses 4 and following together, verses 4 through 7. "Surely our griefs he himself bore, and our sorrows he carried. Yet we ourselves esteemed him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. He was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The chastening of our well-being fell upon him, and by his scourging we are healed. All of us, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way. But the Lord has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. He was oppressed. He was afflicted. Yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to slaughter, like a sheep that is silent before his shears, so he did not open his mouth." He goes on to talk about verse 11, how he bore our iniquities. If you've read this text before, it's an important place to go. And I've got a few more things to share from Isaiah, but if nothing else works for you throughout this morning, please have your Bibles open to this text. And in a few minutes, when we're partaking here, remember what he was willing to do. But here's my question today. It's not just who was willing to die, though that's the centerpiece of all redemption, or how far he was willing to go. He gave everything, or even what he was willing to accomplish. He was willing to bring healing and salvation and redemption. I'm also interested in what it was that he was purchasing. That's effectively what the giving of his body and his blood was. It was a payment, a everything I've got payment in order to procure something worth redeeming. We would call that his church. And so it's not just that he died so that you could be saved. He died so that he could have a people, that he could be the governor, the king over those people. Turn back to chapter 9 for a moment, Isaiah 9. In Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7, that payment produced for him a body, a church, a structure that belonged to him. In chapter 9, verse 6, it talks about Christ again and what he came to do. "For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace." Verse 7, "There will be no end to the increase of his government or of his peace. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness from then on and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this." He has a government. And there are people under that. And you're supposed to be a part of that people, and so am I. And so while it is crucial and central to first think about what he did, how far he went, and what it means, my follow-up question this morning is, are we the church that he purchased? Have you thought about that? Or is this it? Are we the body that he gave everything for? Or would he come and look at us and go, I did give everything, but I don't think this is exactly what I gave it for? Let me give you a brief kind of silly illustration to tell you where my mind is at. You know, Summer and I love Sedona, like we're crazy about it. So one day we just decided to go all in. We're going to give everything we've got. We're going to beg and borrow and pull every penny together and leverage everything we can and purchase a place in Sedona and go and live there. So we call a builder and we say, all right, we're going all in, we're giving it all. This is our entire life savings. The builder says, what do you want me to build? We say, okay, here's the deal. We want about 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. We want lots of windows so that we can see all the beautiful mountains around us. We'd love to have a really large kitchen. We've never had a super large kitchen before. And some open space so when people come and visit, there'll be plenty of space for people. And the builder says, fine, send me all your money. I'll take care of it. So we send him everything. And for the next 4 months, he builds it. And then we pack up all of our stuff and we hug all you guys and we take off to go and see what all that we had to offer purchased. And we show up to our brand new home and it's a Taco Bell. I didn't purchase a Taco Bell. I purchased a dream home to live in. The builder goes, actually, you might remember, you said 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. That's what this Taco Bell is. You said you wanted windows. There's windows on 3 full sides. There's an enormous kitchen. And there's tons of places for people to sit and eat. It measures up somewhat to what I was saying, but I gave my whole life savings for this, and that is not what I purchased. My question is, when Jesus looks at us, does he ever think that? Does he go, I bore it all. I gave it all. I want to find, when I get to earth, what I'm looking for. So the question for the remainder of the morning is, what is he looking for? What does his church look like if it was built for him? Well, we're still going to stay in Isaiah. I want to show you a few things. Would you open your Bibles to Isaiah chapter 2? Isaiah chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. Let me tell you what his house should look like and what each of us should look like in his image. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1, the word which Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Now it came about that in the last days the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as the chief of the mountains and will be raised above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. And many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. Now listen carefully to these last 2 verses here. That he may teach us concerning his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, and he will judge between the nations, and will render decisions for many peoples, and they will hammer their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, and never again will they learn war. Jesus paid it all. What did he purchase? He purchased a people, verse 3, who would walk in his ways. He did not sacrifice himself on a cross. His Father watched him die to bear the iniquities of a people who would not walk in his ways. We are to be a people who do in fact walk in his ways. You go, amen. Of course, that's the truth. Well, let me show you what that means, verse 4. It means farmers, not fighters. The nation of Israel was filled with fighting and war, and they had to battle other nations, and there was real bloodshed, and they had to fight everybody else for everything. He said, I'm going all in to let them kill me. That should be an indication that the house I'm building will be different than the one before. I'm not going to go in with my sword and slaughter the enemy. I'm going to go in and let them slaughter me. But I am purchasing a people who will take their swords and turn it into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. If we are the church that Christ purchased, we will not be carrying swords. We will be carrying cultivation tools, farming tools. We will be planting seed and fertilizing the ground and trying to draw people to it. In fact, if this was one of those full sermons where I had a little more time, I tell you that there are swords in the New Testament, but they're used differently. The sword in the New Testament is to fight Satan, not other people. And the sword in the New Testament is more for surgery on your own heart than it is slicing someone else. Are we the structure that he built? He said, I'll tell you how you'll know. We will be a people who walk in his ways, and we will be a people more interested in farming, growing, cultivating, and gathering than fighting, destroying, and separating. Keep going with me into chapter 11. All the way through Isaiah, these great pictures, not just of the offering of Christ, but of that which he purchased with that offering. There's this text about him beginning in verse 1. This shoot will spring from the stem of Jesse, and the Spirit will rest on him, and he'll have wisdom. It's this beautiful, beautiful text. But I want to pick up in verses 6 through 9. Verses 6 through 9. Are we his church? Verse 6 through 9. And the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little boy will lead them. Also the cow and the bear will graze. Their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The nursing child will play by the hole of the cobra, and the weaned child will put his hand on the viper's den. They will not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. There's that holy mountain, chapter 2, that idea of what he's building. For the earth will be full of knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. I know what he did. I want to know if that's affected itself in me and in us. Who are we? Well, verses 6 and following describe what I would just call supernatural peace. There's no natural peace when a little boy sits down next to a cobra. That's always going to go wrong. I don't think there's any scenario where that works out. You probably, if you've ever been to the zoo, if you sit down a lion next to an ox and put straw in front of them and go, you guys just have a great day, just really enjoy yourselves. It will not, like it in the natural world, the lion attacks the ox. The cobra attacks the child. The idea, verse 6, of a wolf and a lamb finding a way to dwell together is impossible. Christ came and said, I'm going to do the impossible. I'm going to give a perfect sacrifice to redeem a complete people who will be ridiculously different than the world. Not a little different, ridiculous. What do you mean by different? I mean supernatural peace. I mean a kind of peacefulness and a way that they treat each other that is unique to all of the natural world. He goes on to say, verse 9, just in case we miss the imagery of the different creatures sitting next to each other, enjoying their afternoon, he said, they will not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. They will not be a people who hurt others. They will not be a people who take pride in that which they destroy. We're farmers, not fighters. We will be a people who understand, verse 9, that the earth is filled with the knowledge of the Lord. If I ask you right now, what is the knowledge of the Lord? Put it in a sentence. Tell me the knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. You would say, the sacrificial lamb, the beautiful Savior, the one who gave all, who carried no pride, who is patient and gentle and kind. Jesus is like, yes, go be that. That's what I built. I didn't build something that was different than the nature of who I am. Go to chapter 35. Isaiah 35. As we're getting near the end of this, I want you to think about how 1 Corinthians 11 structures things for us. It wants us to first remember Christ. That's Isaiah 53. First remember the suffering servant. Remember all that he poured out and the iniquities that he bore. But 1 Corinthians 11 also asks us to examine ourselves and the body. His church, his people. And here's what we need to find. In chapter 35 and in verse 3, let me tell you about those who understand the glory of the Lord, verse 2, and the majesty of our God. Chapter 35, verse 3. Encourage the exhausted and strengthen the feeble. Say to those with anxious heart, take courage. Fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance. The recompense of God will come, but he will save you. Verse 8, a highway will be there, a roadway. It'll be called the highway of holiness. The unclean will not travel on it, but it will be for him who walks that way, and fools will not wander on it. No lion will be there, nor will any vicious beast go up on it. These will not be found there, but the redeemed will walk there. And the ransom of the Lord will return and come with joyful shouting. We'll talk about that at the end. What did he purchase? He purchased a people who get exhausted. This was an amen church, that would have been your moment. He purchased a people who sometimes feel feeble. He purchased a people who sometimes have anxious hearts. But he didn't purchase one at a time to go out and figure it out. He purchased a body of people who would encourage those who are exhausted, would strengthen those who are feeble, would sit down with someone who has anxious heart and say, take courage, God is in control and he will save you. We're on this highway of holiness. We're traveling this road together. There are no lions on the highway. They're all off of that highway. Those of us who travel, we travel together. We travel to lift up. We travel to help. We travel to carry. You go, well, if I'm among God's people and we're His one true church, are sometimes God's people going to turn into lions and tear you apart? No, they will not do that. Jesus gave His life to create a highway for people who help those who need it. Are we His people? I know that He did all of this. I know that He encouraged the exhausted by His ministry and His sacrifice. I know that He strengthened the feeble by that which He was willing to bear. I know that He settled anxious hearts. Are we doing those same things? We need to be His people. Chapter 51, final passage. Isaiah 51. This is at the end of that read too, but it's a little bit more in depth here in chapter 51. Chapter 51. Verse 3, indeed, the Lord will comfort Zion. He will comfort all her wasted places. This is Isaiah 51, verse 3. Her wilderness will be made like Eden, her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found in her. Thanksgiving and sound of a melody. Verse 7, listen to me, you who know righteousness, a people in whose heart is my law. Do not fear the reproach of man, nor be dismayed at their revilings. For the moth will eat them like a garment, the grub will eat them like wool. But my righteousness will be forever, and my salvation to all generations. One more verse, verse 11. So the ransom of the Lord will return and come with joyful shouting to Zion. The everlasting joy will be on their heads. They will obtain gladness and joy. And what happens to sorrow and sighing? They flee away. He did not purchase a people who would be constantly burdened and distraught, who would be robbed of joy and feeling desperate all of the time and filled with angst and sorrow and suffering and sighing. He's got more power than that. He cleansed us of the burdens of our sin. He cleansed us of any concept that the devil would win, and His suffering brought salvation, joy, and rejoicing. And so I'm just going to ask you, are you rejoicing in who we are as God's people? What happens to the sighing in your life and the sorrows that try to burden you? We feel those things and at times we have to carry them, but didn't He carry all of the burden for us so that we could be free of all of those weights? It reminds me of that dumb old joke that I learned 20 years ago and can't stop telling, and nobody ever laughs. About the little girl that saw the donkey on the side of the road in fenced area and asked her mom if it was a Christian. And the mom's like, why would you ask me that? And she said, because he's got such a long face. That's not funny at all. At all. And yet, you know, I know what He did. He did everything. I know how far He went. He went all in. I know what He gave. He gave His entire life. I know what it meant. It meant freedom. It meant freedom. I know what it meant. It meant that all of the sorrows could be laid upon Him and carried away. Now here's my question for you as we walk back through this. When He looks at us today and He says, that's what I bought, let me go check on it. That's what I asked for. Is He just going to see a few elements? Well, the windows are right. Or, you know, there's a big kitchen in there. In my structure for Taco Bell. What's He going to say? I hope He says, I see a people who walk in my paths. I see farmers, not fighters. I see a people of supernatural peace who do not hurt or destroy. I see a people who help the exhausted and the feeble and lift them up, who travel the highway and keep it clear of that which doesn't belong, who are joyful and who are thankful, and whose sorrows and sufferings and difficulties fade away in the light of all that Jesus has done. Would you remember who we are because of who He is and what He did, as we remember how far He went to make this possible?